Welcome to Caring for New Hampshire, a ministry of Concerned Women for America. I'm Elaine Driscoll, State Director. I want to welcome you to our Upfront and Personal series where we are meeting with the various candidates that are running for president and getting to know them and giving them an opportunity to let you know about them, who they are, what their life has been like, and what they're doing and what their goals are. So we're very pleased to have with us today a presidential candidate, State Senator Greenleaf from Pennsylvania. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming out here. We really appreciate it.
I would just say that I'm not saying this just because I'm in New Hampshire right now, but there's been a very, very open process, and only in New Hampshire could you do what I'm trying to do, and that is to talk about the national issues and talk about the debates on how we can turn the economy around, break the deadlock, and turn the economy around, because there are many, many people who are suffering with this situation. They're losing their homes, they're losing their jobs, and I think it's important for us to do whatever we possibly can to help to turn it around, and that's what I'm trying to do. And only in New Hampshire would I be able to do this, to express those opinions. New Hampshire has led the nation in not only being the first primary, but also who helps and wants to frame the issues and the solutions. And this is the state that I wanted to come to and try to participate in that and give some ideas. And my ideas are I think, worthy of consideration. There are other ideas that are just as good, I'm sure, out there. But to start to think about it in a nonpartisan way and a way that would be effective. I mean, there's some ideas that we deal with in government that are feel-good ideas. They look good, they sound good, but they're not effective. They're completely ineffective. And so what I'd like to talk about today is some of those economic issues that would turn our economy around without pumping a lot of money out there trying to experiment with it. We need immediate results, not results that will take 2 or 3 years to kick in, but results that will get our jobs now, and create jobs, and create a better economy.
Well, thank you, Senator, and you are right. New Hampshire is a wonderful place for candidates to come and meet face-to-face, literally, with people, and have questions asked of them, and in return they can learn more about what people are really thinking and what their needs are. But before we go on to the issues, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you shared with me that you've been a state senator for 33 years, is that correct?
For 33 years. 33
years, and you're out of the 12th district, right, which is near the Philadelphia area.
The suburbs of Philadelphia. I mean, actually, politics was not my goal. I never was interested in politics when I was growing up. I was interested in playing basketball and maybe being a professional basketball player, but not that never happened. So,
gosh, basketball, but politics.
It doesn't seem like it go together, but when I
gotta learn to negotiate, that's for sure.
Exactly. So when I knew they weren't going to call, I decided to go to. I went to law school, and when you're involved in the practice of law, you are exposed to politics and public figures, public office holders, and so that led me to an issue about. I was always about justice, and that's been one of the elements that have gone through my career, is about what's fair and what's just. And if you look at my website, you'll see those issues that I was involved in. I seem to gravitate to where that is happening, where that injustice is happening, and then try to solve that problem. And I don't have a lot of good qualities, but one quality I do have is I do have an ability to identify a problem and then to come up with a solution. And there's different ways I do that.
And I noticed, looking at your website, the different things that you've worked on in the past. You were very concerned about minor children and protecting minor children. You also were very instrumental in a bill that gave grandparents the ability to have custody of their children if the marriage situation was not conducive for the children. And also, along with that, was that you supported not having same-sex marriage in your state as well.
I have done that. In regard to the children, one of the first things I did when I was elected and became the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and that's what I wanted to be, and I've been that chairman for about 25 years, was to hold hearings on child abuse. And at the time, it really wasn't an issue that was making headlines because it was going on, but people really dismissed it as being really not a serious issue. Oh, they would get over it. No, that's not the case. We know now that they don't get over it, that many of them are scarred for life.
Yes.
And so I started to hold hearings on that issue, and as a result, we introduced legislation like Megan's Law and protecting children in a courtroom. So,
yeah, and if you don't mind, the Megan's Law, I was very impressed with it because I know here in New Hampshire we've had some problems with predators who are already in a registry in another state, but then they come to New Hampshire and take up residency and nobody's following them. And so that was very foresight. You had a lot of foresight in that work that you did.
We just addressed that issue in our committee, and that is that that's not limited to New Hampshire. That's happening in Pennsylvania and other states. They're looking for states that do not have reciprocal agreements or do not require, or some loophole was left in the law to allow them to move to states where they don't have to register, particularly sexual predators. I think we're pushing the envelope now on who we put on this list. I always have thought that it should be the violent, sexual, compulsive predators. They're the ones that we should have all the requirements of Megan's Law applied to them because they are dangerous and they're compulsive, and it's very difficult to overcome those compulsions that they have. I mean, we are expanding that law, but I think that we have to be very careful how we expand it because the more we expand it, the less attention we're paying to the violent sexual predators that we need to spend our time to. And I've introduced legislation and passed legislation to allow for children to testify closed-circuit television. I mean, if you're a defense attorney and you can't trip up a 7-year-old, you might as well turn in your license. And so, I mean, it's like they take advantage of the children in the courtroom, and it's intimidating for an adult to go in the courtroom, let alone a child. And so we need to, and we did make that change as well.
And I would also think, I know we're going to get to what you'd like to talk to as well, but I would also think that those who are victims of human trafficking, that this closed-circuit TV would be very important for them because their lives are so much in danger if they are able to escape that.
Many cases are lost because the child doesn't want to testify, which is understandable. I mean, as I said, most adults don't want to go into a courtroom and testify, let alone a 6-year-old. And so in trafficking, it's another area that's not gotten a lot of attention, but it's a worldwide problem. It's a problem in the United States where children are abducted and basically sold into sexual slavery. And we have to do everything we can possibly do on a national level to stop it and to have some very severe penalties for those who are engaged in it. I mean, I've gotten to a point now where I think that we've passed some really tough laws in Pennsylvania and other states. We have to be careful when we pass these laws that apply very specifically to the people we want. All too often, and
not broad spectrum.
I've been involved in it too, is that we've passed these laws that have been very broad, and they apply to them. They apply. We want to apply to the person who committed that crime, but they've already gone through the system, and then we start applying it to some people who we don't want to apply to because it's unfair. And so it's important for us to take that in consideration, too, when we're passing legislation.
Well, thank you very much for your work in that area, because that is an area that we are very concerned in, Concerned Women for America as a whole. And human trafficking has definitely, it's definitely a very big issue that really needs a spotlight put on it.
And there has been, but not as much as the child molesters and predators. And so we have to start putting the spotlight on it, because
you are exactly right.
we can pass all the laws in the world, but if it's not brought to public attention, the most effective thing we can do is expose it to public attention, and then things will happen and things will start to change. The laws are okay, and they do serve a purpose, but we have to educate the public and also to expose what's going on, and then the general public will take care of it. They know it's just, they know it's fair, and they will get behind a drive to make it a priority, which it isn't a priority now, but it will be.
If you were president, it would be a priority for you.
Absolutely would be, because we can't allow that. That is just so unjust to take a child and abuse them that way. It's unconscionable.
Well, Senator, thank you so much. And share with me now and our viewers what it is that's on your agenda.
I mean, this is something that I really wasn't pursuing up until very shortly, a few months ago. And as everyone in America, we're watching people losing their homes, or foreclosures. There was last night a report that there's so many in Ohio, in one particular town, that they're tearing them down, and the people are leaving. And where do they go? And they're basically homeless because they can't maintain their mortgage. And we can say to ourselves, well, it's not happening to us. We have a job, we have a home, but it will.
It's happening everywhere.
It will happen everywhere. I've learned that in the legislature is that we say, well, this doesn't happen to us. Well, ultimately, it will happen to us. It'll happen to our whole country and to our children and our grandchildren if we don't step in and do something about it. And that's why I thought of New Hampshire, is that I cannot sit by and allow that to happen. I'm an idea person. So I wanted to have the ideas that I have, and they're not exclusive. They're not the only answer, and there are other proposals, I know, but we have to start seriously looking at them and initiating those proposals now. We can't wait for 2 or 3 or 4 years of some theoretical idea to go into place, but we need to do those things now that will create jobs and start the free enterprise system. The free enterprise system is what made our country great.
That's right.
And all we have to do is get out of its way.
Well, I don't think another QE3 is going to help us out too much.
I don't think so. I think it's important to have the private sector take us out. Government can help and put us in the right direction and provide incentives, but they can't do it. It's the private sector that will do it, and the American public that will do it. We restore their confidence in their economy, and they feel comfortable in spending their money and putting us back to where America can be great. But we have to, in a lot of ways, help it and also get out of its way. So these are the ideas that I think might help, and it could be implemented now. We don't have to wait until the election of over a year from now, when the swearing in of the next president.
Yes.
I mean, we can do these things now, and I would be hopeful that some of them could be done now. The biggest problem that we have, and that is the budget and the excessive amounts of budgets, excessive amounts of money to spend, the unbalanced budget, and also our deficit. Many states, I know New Hampshire doesn't, but I know other states have a constitutional provision that says you have to pass a balanced budget every year. And the federal government, we don't have to do that. And if we in Pennsylvania, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't pass a balanced budget. I know that would be a fact. I mean, that's just the way human beings are many times, if they, and especially in the process of the legislative process. So I think it's important for us to have a balanced budget and also to get rid of our debt. It is now over $500 billion that we're paying in interest every year. I mean, our revenues are only $2 trillion. So 25%
That's a huge chunk.
is being used, spent for interest on the debt. And you think about if that was your situation as an individual homeowner, you'd be concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And if it continues to go the way it's going, it'll double in about 7.5 years to 30 trillion. It's now 15 trillion, the deficit. So we have, and then, so how do we do it? I mean, everybody knows that. Now, how do we resolve that issue? And one of the ways is to collateralize our dollar. What that means is that if you'll pull out a dollar bill and you'll look at it, on the dollar it says it's a Federal Reserve note.
Yes.
We're not on the gold standard or anything like that. And really it's not backed by anyone but the taxpayers of the United States. There's no guarantee about it, and it's monopoly money that we're dealing with now. Mm-hmm. And we need it to be backed by some asset, and the United States government has either $125 trillion to $200 trillion in assets. No one's ever appraised the assets of the United States government. And if we would take those assets and back the dollar, and put on the dollar, collateralized or backed by the assets of the United States government, it would instantaneously change the value of that dollar and make it one of the strongest currencies in the United States.
Now, you say collateralized, are you talking about gold bullion and silver bullion, or are you talking about the physical buildings? Or
yes, the physical buildings,
buildings.
not the gold.
But
the actual assets. We have, for example, in my senatorial district in Pennsylvania, we had 2 naval bases. They were combined bases, and we closed them down. Okay, they made that decision. That was a cost-saving decision, but they gave it away for $1. And there was an asset. And one of them, the Philadelphia, actually the Philadelphia Naval Base was probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe $1 billion. The bases in my district could have been worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and we gave them away. And we have to stop giving our assets away. We have to domestically and internationally, and that's giving assets away. Maybe at one time we could afford to do that, but we can't afford it now.
Well, that's more of a fundamental change to our government, isn't it? Because they're not a revenue-producing.
Right. How many candidates have you seen over the years who say, well, you know what, I'm going to run the government like a business? I mean, I just hear that over and over and over again, and they don't, because a lot of times government can't be. But in these situations, it can be. That we don't have to squander our national, international assets, and we'll get into the international assets, how we're doing that, without trying to take those assets and to, if we're going to dispose of them, to use them and get a fair return on those assets rather than giving them away.
Well, I'd rather see them collateralized than sold off to foreign countries, which we're seeing a lot of now.
The assets that we do keep are the assets that we will use to collateralize. Once we sell them, of course, then they'll be owned by someone else. But once they are, if we keep those assets like land, building, mineral rights, timber rights, all types of assets that we don't know what it has, both internationally and nationally, all over the world, could be worth as much as $200 trillion. So we would use those assets then as the backing up of the dollar. What we'd also do, when not only would be a stronger dollar, we could also use that money for paying off the debt, because we now have a stronger dollar. I'd rather have the debt paid off at $15 trillion and not pay that $500 billion a year in interest payments, then use it for any other purpose, because we could use that $500 billion for rebuilding our infrastructure. We all know that it's crumbling, the bridges, the roads, the water systems, all of those, electric, all those systems, we could use that. That would generate jobs. It would have two things. It would have a better a transit system, a better rail system, so we get people out of their cars and using rail and other forms of transportation. And that would be both to inject monies into the economy, jobs, construction jobs, and other jobs, and also it would provide for and address a major national need that our country needs, and that is to renew and rejuvenate our infrastructure. At the same time, we would have to phase out the Federal Reserve notes. And the Federal Reserve notes, I'd phase it out over 3 to 5 years. Now, during that period of time, at the time, there is a tremendous underground economy in the United States. The people are hoarding dollar bills and cash. They would have to spend that money, because if they didn't, the dollars that they have would not be worth anything, because it would be phased out. And that would be put into our economy as well.
And so what would become the mode of purchase at that point?
Dollar bills. The only change would be...
It just wouldn't say Federal Reserve.
It wouldn't say Federal Reserve note. It would say a collateralized or secured by or backed by the assets of the United States of America.
Okay.
And that would be, there would be new currency issued. I mean, we don't really know how much currency is out there in circulation, but they have, the Federal Reserve, and I think that they have kept the country afloat by spending money, but that's not the final solution. That's just keeping us going. The final solution is to get the businesses and the enterprise system going, free enterprise system going.
Well, that's a very interesting idea, and that would be something that Congress would have to.
Yes,
would have to go through Congress. They would have to approve it.
Yes.
Would it be a constitutional amendment that we would have to pass to have something like that happen?
I don't think it has to be a constitutional amendment. They can change the currency and the banking structure. But there's one thing, and one condition, even though as supportive as I am about this and about strengthening our dollar and paying off our debt, is that we have to have a balanced budget amendment.
Yes.
I would not do this and clear the debt and open up all kinds of activities now for spending more money, because we think of 15 trillion is, I know what human nature is, and it's difficult not to cut back and basically
stay within a budget, right?
Exactly. So the worst thing to do, the balanced budget amendment would have to pass first, and then we would do collateralization of the currency. If we do it the reverse, we have no guarantee that that'll happen, and then that's the worst scenario of all.
Okay. And what is the next issue?
Okay. Another thing is that we know what's happened with our mortgages and our foreclosures, and there was little or no regulation of those issues, and we've gotten in trouble with people that are over their head in mortgage payments. They're underwater in their value of their property, and now we've gone just to the opposite side and been overreaction to this, and so almost no one can get monies for projects. I mean, I know in areas that are small businesses, let's take a small contractor. It's three projects, each worth $10 million, that he would start immediately, but they can't get the financing. Now, there are cases where maybe they shouldn't get the financing, but isn't that what bankers are supposed to do?
Yes.
They're supposed to sit down, evaluate the project. Is it a worthy project? Is it a relatively risk-free project? And is it worthy of being funded? But I don't think we're doing that now. And so we have businesses and banks who are sitting on a lot of money that they have, and those and others who don't have the finances, and they need to be able to have the access to the credit lines that they need to build the projects and move forward. So I think that it's not it's not a money issue. It's as far as spending more money in the federal government, it's just basically providing for a relaxing of credit for worthy and good projects that we should be funding, and that would start, I think, add up to a lot of jobs and economic activity.
I just have a question.
Uh-huh.
What do you think of this process of mortgages, banks bundling mortgages and putting them out on the stock market like that? Is that something that we should continue to do?
You know, I think we should try to do everything we can to keep the people that are in their homes to stay in their homes. Because there was some reports just recently, several times I've seen this report where there's a Ohio town that's tearing houses down because they're vacant.
Right.
And we should have done everything we possibly could and can to keep people in their homes, because they're the ones that will maintain them. They're the ones that slowly pay them off. And ultimately, whenever we do get out of this recession, that the values will go back up. It's going to take years for that to happen, but they'll be there maintaining the house, paying a payment that they can afford, and we should do everything we can to accomplish that. And so I think it's important for us to deal with these things and make sure that the monies that we are need are out there to help the economy and these businesses and to continue to grow. The other thing is what I call tariff tweaking. It's a term I came up with that generally I don't...
And TAFT is an acronym for, I don't remember the acronym for it's a trade...
Well, it's tariff.
Right.
This is for tariffs that are used to, that countries use in order to put surcharges on goods that are coming into it. And what I would do is, there are some industries in the United States that are on the cusp, on the edge of being competitive internationally, and what they need is just a little bit of a tweak in the tariff to raise the tariff for other products coming in from foreign countries in that same area. I think one of those areas is injection molding. That we're very close to being competitive in our foreign countries that are exporting into our country. And that would immediately provide an incentive for them to start hiring more people because they would dominate the domestic market. They would be able to sell things, and they're not going to be competitive in the international market, but they will be competitive in the domestic market. Mm-hmm. And that would create jobs immediately, and growth immediately, and revenues immediately. And also reduce our balance of payments, international balance of payments, because we will not be importing as much of those products too. So it's a win-win for our economy, and it's immediate creation of jobs.
It seems like such a simple thing to do.
It's very easy to do. Impact. And I know that people will say, "Oh, we're going to be involved in a trade war." Let me tell you something. We're already in a trade war.
We are in a trade war.
And we're playing by...
China's rules.
Yeah, right. So we're playing by English cricket rules. And the Chinese are playing by bare-knuckle rules. I mean, they have there's a saying in China, they say that politics is war without blood. But they look at international trade the same way. We're dealing with a situation where we have to be smart in our trade too. We can take this free enterprise process way too. It's okay when everybody's playing by the same rules. When they're not, we have to take steps. And I think our country, our national government, has to take those steps to protect the situation, and because we're very, very, very seriously cause difficulties in our economy, and it is doing that.
And I know that I learned this from one of our previous guests. He was talking about the energy crisis and the fact that China is positioning itself at this very time to become the dominant force in alternate technologies that are coming along that will pretty much replace the use of uranium and other precious metals for energy.
Right.
So I think you're right in saying that we really need to make ourselves much stronger in the whole area.
Intellectual property is our bread and butter. It's something that comes out of our university and our colleges, and we need to protect that asset that we've not done, either through we need to do the tariff tweaking, but also we need to protect the intellectual property that we have. We lose 750,000 jobs a year, billions of dollars in lost profits because we're not protecting international property as well. So the tariff tweaking and the intellectual property issue is the most important thing that we can do too.
Wow. Well, we got a lot on our plates, don't we?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's been very nice to meet you, and I'm so glad that you came to New Hampshire, and I hope you enjoy your stay here.
Absolutely.
And we wish you greatest success with getting your issues out into the populace.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thank you for New Hampshire for giving me the opportunity to be in such an open state that they welcome ideas.
Thank you. And won't you join us again next time on our Upfront and Personal series with Concerned Women for America in New Hampshire. God bless you.